What is the Confederate flag, and what does it stand for?
History, history, history guide.
In 1861, South Carolina became the first southern state in America to secede or break away from the Union, which is the beginning of the American Civil War. South Carolina and the southern states that joined it created a new country known as the Confederate States of America. They elected their own president, they wrote their own constitution, which looked a whole lot like the American Constitution, except they made sure slavery was okay, and one of the first things they did was created a new flag. German immigrant Nicolas Marchal designed the first Confederate flag, which is known as the Stars and Bars. It had 3 bars and 7 stars, representing at that point the 7 states that had joined the Confederacy. Many Southerners hated the first Confederate flag for looking too much like the real American flag. To Confederate cheerleaders, it was, as one man reported, quote, unutterably detestable. It was also problematic in battle, as General P.T. Beauregard learned. When on the battlefield, it looked too much like the flag of the United States of America, what the Union troops were using for the North. So Beauregard moved to get a battle flag, a battle cross, commissioned, which is that X shaped with the stars through it and the red background. A Savannah newspaper man named William Thompson was the editor of the Daily Morning News, and he also hated that first flag. He was against it on account of, quote, its resemblance to the abolition despotism against which they were fighting. In 1863, Thompson would go on to design the second national flag of the Confederacy, known as the Stainless Banner. Thompson called his second Confederate flag, quote, the white man's flag. The familiar-looking battle cross of today was set in the top left against a rectangular canvas of all white. He said that color represented, quote, the supremacy of the white man. Here's how he phrased it in April of 1863. Listen carefully and see if you can detect any hints of subtle racism. Quote, as a people, we are fighting to maintain the heaven-ordained supremacy of the white man over the inferior or colored race. A white flag would thus be emblematical of our cause. If only the rebels would have flown a flag that was all white, so they could have just surrendered before 600,000 men died in a war against their fellow countrymen. Okay. But too many Confederates were concerned that that second flag did look too much like a flag of truce, so they wanted something different. So they amped up the battle flag on the left side and added a red bar along the width of the right border. Despite the loss of the South in the Civil War, which of course ended the Confederate States of America, this symbol has persisted. It's been raised multiple times. In the 1950s, for example, it was raised in Georgia, just a couple of years after the court segregation case of Brown versus the Board of Education. It was also raised at Ole Miss during the debates over integration of colleges. A lot of people see this as a slap in the face against equal rights movements of the 1950s. In 1962, it was raised over the South Carolina Capitol, once again, right in the heat of the equal rights movement. Despite the flag's clear meaning and history, it continues to persist today, appearing all over our culture, even being sponsored by lawmakers in a place like South Carolina. Now, proponents of the flag continue to say that it's about the heritage of the South, that it honors their ancestors. But isn't that a heritage of white supremacy? Some people say that the Civil War was not fought over slavery, but it was absolutely fought over slavery. Maybe you could say the Civil War was fought over states' rights, but a state's right to do what? Documents published by Southern states as they seceded and the Confederate Constitution itself make it very clear that this was all about protecting the institution of slavery. And President Abraham Lincoln said it outright in his second inaugural address. Of course, Lincoln was murdered by a racist fanatic who proudly promoted the same symbol we're still talking about today, this Confederate flag. So I guess it's not just a symbol of racism, it's also a symbol of treason too. What that symbol looks like for many Americans is hatred and intimidation and a sign that they are not equal, they are not welcome, and that they better be careful. It's a sign of danger, and it has persisted because generations of people have rationalized its meaning beyond what the Creator said it was supposed to portray, to be emblematic of the cause of white supremacy. We have to do better.